Thanks for tuning in to the final video of the micronutrient series. I decided to put macro and micro minerals together into the same video just to save a little bit of your time and to make sure that you have this one video to refer back to should you wish to settle a dispute between you and your friends, or if you just want to refresh your memory and want to come back and check the facts on certain minerals. Calcium is required to build and maintain strong teeth and bones. It is especially important to get a sufficient intake of calcium when younger to avoid osteoporosis and brittle bones in the old age. Calcium is also required to help the normal function of your nerves and muscles, plus it is also required in blood clotting. Best sources for calcium are milk and dairy products, also fortified milks and other fortified products. Kale is also a good source of calcium, as is tinned fish, especially ones with bones left in. You can also find calcium in breads and grains. Children and the elderly should drink whole milk due to their increased calcium needs. Whole milk also has a higher caloric and fat content, which is useful to these age groups. Calcium requirements depend on age, gender and medical conditions, but the average has been set at 700 milligrams a day for both men and women. It is relatively easy to get it from foods. All you need is about 3 to 4 average size servings of dairy. So let's say starting with a glass of whole milk, or also fortified rice or soya milk, will give you about a third of your daily calcium allowance. If you like tinned sardines, then half a tin will also give you half a day's allowance. We've already discussed low and high intakes previously, so I'm sure you remember that we require vitamin D to absorb calcium and phosphorus from foods. Failure to do so can result in brittle bones, osteoporosis, osteomalacia or rickets. The role of phosphorus is similar to that of calcium. Both of these minerals are required for the building of strong bones and teeth, and phosphorus has so many other functions in our bodies that it is impossible to live without it. Luckily, phosphorus is also available in virtually all foods, so a deficiency is very rare and supplementation is not needed. Best sources for phosphorus are animal proteins, dairy, eggs, whole grains and breads. The recommended nutrient intake for phosphorus is 550 milligrams a day, so deficiency is quite hard to reach, as already mentioned, because phosphorus is available in virtually all foods. Too high intakes are very hard to reach through dietary intake alone, but can be reached if you are supplementing, as that will not be necessary. Potassium and sodium are required to regulate the fluid balance in our bodies, which is important for literally every cell in our bodies, especially our muscles and nerves. Eating plenty of fruits will help counter the effects of eating too much salt and therefore will help lower blood pressure. Potassium is also required to help store carbohydrates in the form of glycogen, which, as we already know, is our body's first source of energy. Best sources for potassium are some fruit and vegetables, dried fruit, animal protein, dairy and whole grain breakfast cereals. It's very useful to remember that unprocessed foods will always have higher potassium levels. The recommended nutrient intake for potassium is 3.5 grams a day. Toxicity is unlikely if your dietary intake is normal, but can be brought about by unnecessary supplementation. Toxicity of potassium can have adverse effects on your kidneys. Deficiency of potassium can cause mental confusion, muscle weakness and heart failure. This can happen in very hot conditions, or especially in endurance athletes. As mentioned earlier, sodium works together with potassium in our bodies to help regulate the fluid levels, which is very important for the normal function of our muscles and nerves. Naturally, sodium in foods is found in very small quantities. However, we tend to add sodium in the form of salt to our foods when we prepare them, process them or preserve them. Even when we serve foods, we tend to sprinkle salt on top, and this all puts us at risk of high blood pressure. Currently, the average person in the UK consumes far too much salt and should cut down considerably. Recommended nutrient intake for sodium is 1.6 grams a day. However, the average current intake in the UK is between 2 to 10 grams a day. So this is up to 6 times higher than is actually healthy or recommended. And the link has been established by between high salt intake and high blood pressure. Deficiency of potassium and sodium are relatively similar, and as mentioned before, these can be brought about by extremely hot conditions or by extreme sweating. In average people, sodium deficiency can result in leg cramps, but in endurance athletes, should they not replenish their electrolytes when running or rowing, this can bring about nausea, fatigue, and also heart failure. Magnesium helps to release energy from food. Magnesium also helps us build and maintain strong bones, and it is required in the normal function of our muscles and nerves. Medically, magnesium is used to help reduce irregular heart rhythms and irregular muscle contractions. Magnesium can be found in whole grain breads and cereals, also sunflower seeds, Brazil nuts, quinoa, and brown rice. The recommended nutrient intake for magnesium is 270 milligrams a day for women and 300 milligrams a day for men. Any excess of magnesium is excreted, therefore toxicity is impossible given that our kidneys are functioning normally. Deficiency of magnesium can cause irregular heartbeat and cramps, and can be brought about by starvation, alcoholism, and prolonged diarrhea. Iron helps to make red blood cells, which are required to carry oxygen around in our bodies. Iron is also required for a strong immune system and for a normal brain function. Iron can be absorbed better from foods with the presence of vitamin C, and it's good to know that tannins actually can reduce iron absorption from foods. Tannins can be found in teas, coffee, and some wines. Now, especially ones with long contact time, we're talking 2 weeks and more. Best sources for iron are liver, red meat, beans, pulses, nuts and seeds, dried fruit, wholemeal breads, and certain fish. For example, 100 grams of liver will give you sufficient iron levels for the day. And speaking of liver, eating liver once a fortnight will give you sufficient levels of B12 and many other microminerals, since liver really is a powerhouse of micronutrients. Recommended nutrient intake for iron is 8.7 milligrams a day for men and 14.8 milligrams a day for women. The intake should be higher still for women with high menstrual losses, and the most practical way to do so is by taking a supplement. Other groups at risk of iron deficiency are toddlers, children, adolescents, the elderly, tea and coffee drinkers, and people on high fiber diets. Dietary overload is relatively rare in the UK, but can be brought about by a genetic disorder. Iodine helps to make thyroid hormones, which are of extreme importance in the regulation of our body's metabolic rate. Iodine is found in some types of soil, in rocks and seawater. Best sources of iodine are kale, dairy, certain types of fish, shellfish, and eggs. The recommended nutrient intake for iodine is 140 micrograms a day, and iodine intake is extremely important in the first 3 months of pregnancy. Iodine is vital for the healthy development of the nervous system of the fetus, and the deficiency can have very severe consequences. Toxicity would occur at 10 to 20 grams a day, and the results would be swelling of the neck due to the enlargement of the thyroid gland. Fluoride helps with the formation of our teeth and helps prevent tooth decay. 99% of fluoride is found in our teeth, where it is required to increase the mineralization of our teeth and also increase our bone density. Best sources for fluoride are tea, seafood, and obviously toothpaste. Fluoride is added to tap water in areas where naturally fluoride levels are really low. There is no recommended nutrient intake for fluoride, as we have no physiological requirement for it. However, you can trust your toothpaste to have exactly the right quantities of fluoride to keep your teeth looking nice and healthy. Deficiency of fluoride can cause cavities, weak bones, and teeth. Too high intakes of fluoride usually result in dental fluorosis, and this happens in children who swallow toothpaste. The more mild cases can just result in mild tooth discoloration, but the more severe cases can result in serious damage to the tooth enamel. Zinc contributes to normal mental skills and abilities, and also contributes to our fertility and reproduction. Zinc is also required to keep our hair, nails, and skin healthy. Zinc is involved in all major metabolic pathways that contribute to the metabolism of all micronutrients, that is, protein, fats, and carbs. Best sources for zinc are meat, poultry, cheese, certain shellfish, nuts and seeds, and also whole grain breakfast cereals and whole grain and seeded breads. The recommended nutrient intake for zinc is 7 milligrams a day for women and 9.5 milligrams a day for men. Deficiency is quite rare but can lead to delayed puberty and stunted growth. Let it be known that alcohol consumption increases our body's need for zinc, since zinc is required to break down and metabolize alcohol. Consuming more than 2 grams of zinc a day can interfere with your iron and copper metabolism and can result in nausea, vomiting, and high fever. This is likely the result of drinking water from galvanized containers. Selenium has antioxidant properties and is required to keep our body safe from the free radical damage. Selenium is also required for healthy skin and nails and for normal fertility in males. Selenium can be found in a variety of foods, especially great are Brazil nuts, cashews and sunflower seeds, also liver, poultry, some fish and shellfish. It's good to know that 2 Brazil nuts a day will give you your daily requirement of selenium. Recommended nutrient intake for selenium is 60 micrograms a day for women and 70 micrograms a day for men. Deficiency can contribute to the coronary heart disease and cancers. Toxicity of selenium can result in poor nail growth. I would like to thank you all so much for joining me on this micronutrient journey, and I hope you have learned a lot about different vitamins and minerals. Now, please remember to save or bookmark these videos so that you could easily refer back to these later. The next few videos coming from me will be on antioxidants and fiber, and then we're going to move on to the really exciting world of food labels. This will be surely an eye-opening journey, as you will learn how to better read the packaging in the supermarkets, and I assure you, you will never be fooled by any advertisements ever again, since there can be a lot of misleading slogans on the packaging in stores nowadays. Get in touch with any questions that you might have, and remember to follow me on my different social media pages. Just search for Rahel the Amazon. I hope you have a good week. I'll speak to you soon. Bye!